Hello, everyone. Welcome to Barca News. It is January 22nd, 2024, and it's reported that Barcelona are really worried and upset about what's currently going on with Spanish refereeing, especially after the daylight robbery that Real Madrid just pulled yesterday against Almeria. Also, Deco has completely closed the door to any possible sale of Ronald Araujo. And finally, Jose Mourinho could be crossing paths with Barcelona once again. We have a lot to discuss, so let's begin. Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. My name is Mo, and this is Barca News' live podcast, which is on every Mondays and Wednesdays at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Today I started at 7:45, so 15 minutes later because I was on the road. I was stuck in traffic. I tried to change the time from my phone. It didn't work. I did post a message on the community tab. Hopefully you guys saw it. Hopefully you didn't have to wait for too long, but I do apologize for the delay. But anyways, welcome to Barca News' podcast, where not only do we discuss the news, but I also get to interact with you guys through the chat section, read you guys' comments out loud, answer any questions, and get a discussion going. Having said that, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment if you are looking for any Barcelona jerseys or merchandise. Make sure you hit the kickback, and if you are looking to place any sports bets, make sure you hit the Bet Us. Both sites are having special offers if you use my link, and both links for kickback and Bet Us are in the description. Now let's dive right into the news because it's reported that Barcelona are currently incredibly worried about what's going on with Spanish refereeing, especially after the robbery that Real Madrid pulled off in daylight against Almeria. And if you don't know what happened, I talked about this in yesterday's video. I also talked about it in a post-match live analysis. But to make long story short, pretty much, Real Madrid were down by 2-0 at the Santiago Bernabeu against the worst team in La Liga, Almeria. 3 VAR calls, all wrong calls, all controversial calls, which gave Madrid 2 more goals and took away a perfectly legal goal from Almeria, making a score 2-2. And then at the end of the match, the ref giving Real Madrid 60 minutes of added time, allowing Real Madrid to score the 3rd goal and pull off that gifted victory, not even victory, but gifted victory. So then it's reported now that Barcelona are very worried about what happened, and they're worried that it can continue to happen, and therefore it can continue affecting the club's aspirations and hope to win La Liga. Now, another thing that Barcelona are really worried about is that what Real Madrid TV were doing is actually succeeding. If you don't know what I'm talking about, at the beginning of the season, Real Madrid were posting or publicizing video after video. They called it documentaries, but they were pretty much videos that tried to show that there are victims of bad refereeing. In each video, they attacked a different referee in La Liga, making it seem like those certain referees always ruled against Real Madrid no matter what happened, and they always ruled in favor of everyone else. And Barcelona feel like those videos have had a negative impact where referees are now feeling tremendous pressure from Real Madrid to rule in favor of Real Madrid, because if you take into consideration the Enrique Stereda case, referees are feeling like, oh, I'm either going to be called corrupt because of the Enrique Stereda case, or I'm going to be called corrupt because Real Madrid TV keeps publicizing these videos. Therefore, these referees are feeling a lot of pressure to rule in favor of Madrid. That way, they don't seem like corrupt because of the Enrique case. They don't seem like the Real Madrid TV videos are right. And I agree with Barcelona. Those videos are working. We've seen it work all season. This is not the first time that Real Madrid get controversial calls in their favor. They've been getting them all season. You can go back to almost every match Real Madrid has played this season has had a controversial call in their favor, whether it's penalty kicks that they were gifted to them that were not penalty kicks, or penalty kicks that they committed but were not ruled in favor of the opponent. So this campaign by Real Madrid TV is definitely working. And Barcelona are very worried about this because they're seeing what's happening not only in Madrid games, It's also happened to Barcelona too. We've had some pretty bad calls this season that has affected us. Now, Xabi did speak about this yesterday. I discussed his statements in yesterday's video, but I'll go over them really quick. He spoke about what happened against Almeria, and he pretty much said, everyone saw the refereeing in the Real Madrid-Almeria match. After our first match this season, I already told you that it was going to be incredibly difficult to win La Liga this season. I stand by those words. 100% agree with Xabi. Given how refereeing is going right now, it will be difficult. Of course, it's also going to be difficult because we're playing like crap. But nonetheless, even with good play, it's going to be very difficult to win this La Liga season because we're seeing that referees are feeling the pressure and they're doing everything in their power to help Madrid at the cost of everyone else. Now, Barcelona reportedly support 100% what Xabi Hernandez said. Therefore, they're not going to publicize, they're not going to make any public statements because they feel like what Xabi said represents how everybody within Barcelona are feeling. So they're not going to make any public statements. They feel like what Xabi said is enough. However, if things do continue to happen, then we could see public statements by Barcelona and a public campaign to start shining more light at this egregious problem that's going on in La Liga, which is absolute a disgrace. Now, Xabi did mention how refereeing has affected Barcelona. I do want to highlight that and discuss that in yesterday's video. But he said with fair refereeing calls, we should have 6 more points in the table. We should have beaten Getafe. If you all remember, there was that clear penalty, right, against Getafe. A clear penalty in Vallecas that nobody mentioned. Joao Felix's goal in Granada. But nobody talks about this. We can't do anything about it but keep working. 100% agree with Xabi. There were some pretty bad calls against Barcelona. We should have 6 points more. I'm not trying to justify the team's performance. I'm not saying that the team has lost matches or tied matches due to refereeing alone. Of course, a lot of the results are as a direct result of Barcelona's bad play. There was a lot of defeats that we deserved, a lot of draws that we deserved. There was even victories that we didn't deserve because of how bad the team has been playing. But nonetheless, despite that, refereeing has still affected us because we should have 6 more points, and it might not sound a lot, but if you look at La Liga table, 6 points would put us at 50 points. So had referees gotten their act together, we should have 6 more points, and we would be at 50 points, only 1 point behind Real Madrid and only 2 points behind Girona. So this is definitely a very serious problem. Not only is it helping stay at the top, it's also affecting other clubs, including Barcelona and including someone like Almeria, who you might think, well, they're in last place, who cares? But it does matter because those 3 points could have definitely helped Almeria's fight to stay. Now, with 3 less points, it's almost they're doomed to relegation, which means the bottom teams only have to worry about 2 more spots of relegation versus 3. So this does affect everybody. This doesn't just affect Real Madrid. This affects everybody, and Barcelona are reportedly very, very worried about this. Hopefully it stops, especially after yesterday's match. Yesterday's match, everybody's talking about the robbery that happened. Hopefully that puts kind of like a magnifying glass on Real Madrid and the calls they're getting. We'll have to wait and see, but this definitely needs to stop because what's happening is absolutely unacceptable. Anyways, let's start with the chat section. Let's do a few comments, read you guys' questions, get a discussion going, and then we'll talk about the ambiance of the locker room. I don't know if you want to call it ambiance. I guess the mood of the locker room. All right. Troop says, I think Mourinho would do well with managing Eagle. No. Let's stop with this right now. I want to put a break to this. Mourinho is an awful, terrible coach. He has been on a decline for many, many years. I think ever since he arrived at Real Madrid, he's been on a decline. He's been sacked from every club he has managed because he's toxic. He's a horrible coach. And everything horrible that he did to Barcelona, we cannot forget that. So let's stop with the nonsense of bringing Mourinho to Barcelona. But anyways, we will talk about Mourinho a little bit more. So here we go. Curtis says, heard reports that Gerard Moreno is investigated because he leaked audio for the Madrid-Almeria game. The referee refused to send off Vinicius. I did come across those audios. I wanted to talk about it here, but I decided I'm going to make a separate video because I'm going to try to get the audio and play it in the video. But I don't know about Gerard Moreno, if that's true or not. All I know is the Royal Spanish Football Federation and La Liga have agreed to start releasing VAR recordings after each match. So I don't think why anyone would get in trouble for this, since this is already something that La Liga and the Royal Spanish Football Federation have agreed to do and are currently doing. Klaus says, we all know La Liga is corrupt and we will die eventually because of its corruption. 100% agree. I don't think that there's some kind of, I don't think Florentino Perez is dropping off bags of cash at referees' houses or making transfers to their Swiss bank accounts. I don't think La Liga is rigged, but it's definitely clear that that Real Madrid are favored by La Liga. And that's clear because everybody in power, and I've talked about this a million times before, if you don't know by now, you should look it up, but everybody most people who are in charge of La Liga, who are in charge of the Royal Spanish Football Federation, who are in charge of the committee of referees are Madridistas. They're either Madrid club members, former directors, former players. Most of the referees are Madridistas. So as such, Real Madrid are heavily, heavily favored. The calls are always in their favor. And this whole campaign by Real Madrid TV signaling out referees is not helping because these referees are feeling the pressure. And now they don't want to rule. They don't want to red card someone from Real Madrid. They don't want to call a penalty against Real Madrid because they're going to feel like, I'm going to be put on the spotlight. They're going to say those videos are true. So definitely not good what's going on. By the way, I forgot to mention, Hernandez, the referee from the match between Real Madrid and Almeria, has been rewarded with a Copa del Rey match. So he will be reffing one of the Copa del Rey matches that's upcoming this week. Absolutely insane, because if you look at the Premier League, when a referee gets some pretty bad calls, they automatically get suspended. Depending on how bad the calls are, sometimes you get suspended 1 match, 2 matches, 3 matches. In La Liga, you get bad calls and you get rewarded with Copa del Rey matches. Absolutely insane. And it's an absolute circus what's going on in La Liga. And you can thank Javier Tebas and Florentino Perez for that. Anyways, let's go back into the news because it's reported that after the victory against Real Betis 2-4 at the Benito Villamarin, that the morale has gone up in the locker room. Everybody is feeling really good. Everybody's feeling really optimistic. And for the first time in a long time, the players are feeling that they can revert the situation and they can start seeing positive results. Now, I talked about this in the post-match live analysis. I said I was really happy with Barcelona's performance, not only because for the first time they looked organized, they played as a team, and they got a good, important victory, and they won that with more than 1 goal. But I liked it because it was a step forward. Not just performance-wise, but mentality-wise. Because the team slipped and they allowed Real Betis to score 2 goals against them in a very short period of time. During any other week, that would have been the end of Barcelona right there in the match. 2 goals back-to-back, the team would have completely lost confidence. They would have gotten nervous. They would have started making silly mistakes. They would have immediately retreated and started defending, and just total mess, asking, the referee to blow the final whistle, but not in the Real Betis match. They continued fighting. They continued playing, continued attacking, and they scored 2 more goals, and they were able to win that match. So I think it was a step forward in a team's performance, in a team's mentality. And it's reported that after that victory, the morale is really high in the locker room and that players are starting to believe that they can revert their situation, which is great, great news, because I think we needed that. We needed that boost, and hopefully it can work in our favor, and hopefully the team can keep building on that great performance. Now, it's reported that the team are also very upset about what was going on in the headlines. Xavi Hernandez too, because after that loss against Real Madrid, there were a lot of headlines that were, calling out players, very disrespectful headlines. Of course, that's very common in Spain. When Real Madrid lose, it's like, oh, they tried their best. When Barcelona lose, you guys are trash. You're awful. Ha, 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 blah, blah, blah. And it's reported that they were very upset at these headlines and that Xavi Hernandez felt actually very disrespected by those articles that were linking Barcelona with other coaches like some of the coaches I mentioned, like Thiago Motta or Mitchell or Imanol, etc. So Xabi Hernandez did not like the media writing about Barcelona looking for other coaches. The players didn't like, all these disrespectful headlines, and they also didn't like how Araujo was constantly being linked with other clubs and other players, how they were linked with other clubs. And it's reported that they're all looking to shut the media up, to use all that negativity that the media was publicizing about them and use it as fuel. It's reported that one of the players was heard saying, they tried to bury us before our time. So the team, again, morale really high, and they're all want to use all that negativity from the press and channel it towards shutting everybody up and proving everybody wrong. I'm very, very happy and delighted to hear this, because that's what separates great players from not so great players. Because when you're an athlete, you're always going to get criticized when you do things bad. That's just a given. It doesn't matter if it's football, basketball, whatever sport it is. And what separates those great players from the not so great players is that great players can take all that negativity and channel it and turn it into something positive and use it as fuel to become even better and greater and to prove everybody wrong, versus the not so great players let that negativity get to their head, and eventually they crumble under it. So very happy to hear that the team's morale is high, that they're looking to turn things around, that they believe that they can turn things around, that they are going to use all that negativity from the press to their advantage. Anyways, let's get back to the comment section. And we'll do more comments, and then we will talk about Ronald Araujo, because Deco has closed the door. All right. Stanley says, it's a shame La Liga. The league is completely rigged in this modern age. I don't understand how actions can't be taken to stop the corruption in La Liga. I don't think it's rigged. I do think there's a lot of corruption. I think that Real Madrid are heavily favored, but I don't think that the outcome is already determined before the league even begins. If I really believe that Real Madrid has been decided they're going to be the winner before the league even begins, I wouldn't bother watching, right? But in order to understand why things don't happen, in order to stop the corruption in La Liga, you have to look at Spanish politics, because Spanish politics are no different than what happens in La Liga. Spanish politics are very, very corrupt, with very few calling the shots, and with the power heavily concentrated in Madrid. And that's why, the Catalan independence movement is huge, right? Because all these different sections of Spain, or all these different regions, they feel left out, because all the power and all the corruption, it's all in Madrid. They call all the shots. So in order to understand the corruption of La Liga, and I don't want to get into too much because it's not a political channel, you have to understand how corrupt Spanish politics are too. So those two go hand in hand. And the people who Florentino Perez, Tebas, also have their toes in Spanish politics. So the two go hand in hand. Let's see, what else? This chat moved on me. Okay, Motion says the finances are super low. How did get Lewandowski for 60 million, but how did he score 24 goals? I think Lewy cost 40, not 60. And Chicken Tajin says, did y'all hear about the leaked audio? Yes, I heard it. And again, I'm going to make a video about it. I'm going to try to find a translated version of it. If not, I'll just play it in Spanish and I'll translate it. But I didn't want to put it on the live stream because wasn't sure how the how copyright works with live stream. And the last thing I want to do is getting the channel shut down. All right, one more, and then we will talk about Ronald Araujo. It's Barca Gel says now it's time to all the other teams TV to do the same type of videos, how they team suffered against Real Madrid. I mean, yeah, that would be good, I think. But my feeling would be, or my I think if they do that, watch the sanctions just start raining on them. Because if one thing we've learned is that when you're a Real Madrid player or a Real Madrid coach, you can say whatever you want. But if you're from another team, you get punished for it, right? Carlos Soler from Valencia, he criticized the refs in a post-match press conference, and he got a 4-match ban, right? Lewandowski did this. This, no words, nothing. 3-match ban. Ancelotti criticizes the refs. In a post-match press conference, no ban. Vinicius yells at the refs, calls them crazy, insults them to their face. Not even a yellow card. So there's definitely a double standard in La Liga. But they have the nerve of saying that it's Barcelona who robbed trophies and... my God. Anyways, let's talk about Ronald Araujo because, ladies and gentlemen, the sporting director has closed the door on any possibility of Ronald Araujo leaving with the following statements when he said, Bayern want Ronald Araujo. We are not considering selling him. He's not for sale. He's one of the key players for Barca future. We want him to be happy, and this is shown on a day-to-day basis. There is nothing to talk about. So Deco already confirming what I've said many, many times before. Ronald Araujo is not for sale. It doesn't matter who's interested in him, whether it's Manchester United or Bayern Munich, whether they're going to offer 70, 80, or 100 million euros. Ronald Araujo is not for sale. And the only way that any team could sign him is by paying his release clause, which is set at 1 billion euros. And if there's a team who wants to pay that, by all means, go ahead, do it. That would pay off our entire debt. So no, Araujo is not for sale. And not only does the club say that, but Araujo has made it very, very clear that he has no intention of leaving. He's happy in Barcelona, not just the club, but he's also happy in the city of Barcelona itself. He feels very important, especially after they gave him the captaincy. He loves this club, and he has no intention of leaving. And not only is there no intention of parting ways with Araujo, the club are already working on extending his contract. His contract expires in 2026, and the club are already working on renewing his contract because, as you might recall, I talked about this before, the club are really trying to secure their young talent. They just renewed, Lamine Yamal. They renewed Balde. The next steps are going to be to extend, they obviously renewed Gavi. So the next steps is now to keep going down the ladder, keep extending the contracts of the youngsters, Pedri, Ronald Araujo. They want to secure this young talent that came out from the Masia because they consider that this young talent is the heart and soul of the team. It's the future of the team. So Ronald Araujo is not going anywhere unless a team pays 1 billion euros. And if they do, by all means, I'll give Ronald Araujo a ride to the airport. If they pay the billion, anything under the billion, absolutely not. You can go ahead and kick rocks. Anyways, let's get back to the comment section. And actually, before we do that, I want to address a comment that I've seen rear its head a lot. Speaking of signing players. And I've seen this comment on multiple videos over a very long time, probably a year, maybe a year and a half. So I guess I should have addressed it before, but I'll address it now. And these comments from different people, not the same person, but it's always along the line that Barcelona should keep their scouting of young talent more secret, because since they don't, other teams come and then take those players away from us, kind of like Barcelona is scouting for other clubs, right? Kind of like what Bayern Munich is doing with Lucas Bergvall, what Manchester City did with Echeverri, what Real Madrid did with Arda Güler. And to that comment, I say, if you truly think that Barcelona are the only club who have scouts scouting young talent, you are sorely mistaken, my friend. All big clubs in Europe have scouting departments with big budgets, with scouts all over the world, tracking and monitoring young talent. And as soon as a young player starts making waves somewhere in the world, all the big clubs in Europe hear about that same exact player, not just Barcelona. Not only do these clubs hear about these players through their scouts, they also hear about them through the players' agents, because when there's a young, talented player, their own agent will reach out to big clubs. Hey, come look at my guy. He's great. They'll send out tapes to those clubs because that's the agent's job, is to make their client get noticed by big clubs. And not do only the agents do that, the clubs of the players will do that. The own clubs of those players will reach out to big clubs in Europe and say, hey, come look at my guy. He's great. They'll send out tapes because it benefits them, because then they can sell that talent for millions and millions of euros. So no, Barcelona are not losing players because they're not keeping their scouting secret. They're losing players because other clubs who are better financially are putting much, much more money on the table. So let's stop with this whole thing that, oh, Barcelona got to keep it quiet. Come on, guys. We could do better than that. Even if Barcelona did discover one player that nobody else knows about and they try to keep it secret, it would be impossible because, again, the own player's agent is going to publicize it to the world. Hey, my guy is great. And in fact, he's so great, Barcelona's after him. Because why? The agent wants all the clubs in the world to notice his own client, because the more clubs notice his client, the more option his client has. The same thing with the players' club. Even if Barcelona try to keep it on the low, the players' club is going to want to publicize it to everybody, because the more clubs are involved, the bigger the bidding war and the bigger the profit the club of the player makes. I can't believe I have to explain this, but I wanted to explain it because, again, I've been seeing the same comment over a year. Okay, let's see. Le Juggernaut. I just said it in French. Just kidding. I can't speak French, and that was a horrible attempt. Says, I feel the referees in the Real Madrid versus Almeria game were literally the worst and most blatantly biased. I can remember seeing it. Disgusting. 100% agree, my friend. But at this point, I am no longer surprised. And Nayusef says, last season we won with only one penalty kick awarded to us. That was great. Agree. There was bad refereeing last season too against us, but we were doing much better to where we didn't really care about it. Okay, Hilal says, never to the so-called special one. I think Xavi should be given until the end of the season and then decide on we sack him or not. Changing coaches mid-season is never a good idea. I agree 100%, and I've said this many times before. I am not a fan of changing coaches midway. It only makes things worse, throws things into disarray. Plus, when you do it midway through the season, there aren't enough options out there of coaches that you can sign because, most coaches are with their clubs. So it's better at the end of the season because usually coaches, quit or resign or get fired by the end of the season. So there's more options in the market. Anyways, let's do one last bit of news since we are talking about coaches, and then we'll open it up for more discussion, and then we will end the live stream. But let's talk about Jose Mourinho, because Jose Mourinho has been seen in Barcelona, in the city of Barcelona, and there's talks that he could cross paths with FC Barcelona once again. And no, it's not what you're thinking. He's not in the city of Barcelona because he's there to interview for the coaching job. In fact, Jose Mourinho is what you would call in Latin persona non grata. It means Barcelona don't want anything to do with this guy. He's an incredibly toxic guy, but we can't forget everything that he did against Barcelona, all the toxicity, all the shit talking, all the awfulness. The Clásicos during the Mourinho era were the most toxic Clásico matches ever seen. There was always fights. There was always shit talking before and after the match. It was just an awful, awful period. And Barcelona want nothing to do with this guy, as it should be. And I can't believe there's people who are actually suggesting that Jose Mourinho should be Barcelona's coach. Someone who has done so much damage to Barcelona should never be the coach of Barcelona. Anyways, how, you might ask, Jose Mourinho could cross paths with the club? Well, it's reported that Jose Mourinho is set to meet with the president of Napoli. Napoli right now are not going through their best period. They're doing bad in their in the Serie A, in the Italian league, and they are looking to change things around. I told you in yesterday's video that Napoli have signed 3 players during this winter transfer market. They're looking to sign more. They're spending a lot of money because they want to revert things around. They want to make a comeback in the Serie A, but more importantly, they want to beat Barcelona in the Champions League. And there is talks about maybe Jose Mourinho replacing Napoli's coach, and he will be meeting with Napoli's president in the upcoming few days. So if he does become Napoli's coach, then we could see him face off against Barcelona in the Champions League. Anyways, that is all the news for today. Let's do a few more comments and then we end the live stream. Thank you guys for waiting for me. I apologize for being late. I was stuck in traffic, but you guys are amazing. And let's see. One of Chelsea goal, which came from Alonso, been ruled out for handball when it hit shoulder against Madrid. Remember that? UCL 2022. All right. Chiquitajin says, bro, you don't understand the hate for Mourinho. Seriously, where have you been in a year? Yeah, seriously. I mean, if you're suggesting that Mourinho should be Barcelona's coach, I'm guessing you probably were not around or were not watching Barcelona back then. Kigahad said, I loved the game yesterday. Don't get me wrong. However, I will not be fully confident that we're back until we put at least 2 similar performances in a row. It's possible that we play Girona twice. 100% agree. And I kind of briefly said that during the live stream. It was a great performance. It was a great step forward. But by no means, it means that's it. Like, we're going to win La Liga. We're going to win the Champions League, the Copa del Rey, Trebel's loading. Not at all. That was a good step forward, but we need to continue building upon it. Because we've seen the story before, right? When we played Real Betis at the beginning of the season, we scored 5 goals against them, 5-0. And it seemed like this team was taking off. We're like, oh my God. And we all knew what happened after that. We didn't take off. The plane crashed and burned. The same in the Champions League, right? We played against, what's that Belgium team? Antwerp. And we scored, I think it was 5-1. And it seemed like, oof, we were going to be flying in the Champions League. And turned out Royal Antwerp completely embarrassed us a few weeks later. So let's not fire off the firework yet. Good step forward. Hopefully we can continue building on it. But there's still a lot of work to do. All right, let's see. One more piece. Says Piqué said that Mourinho told the Spanish players that the Barcelona Spanish players hate them, so when they go for national duties they don't respond. I don't understand what you're saying, but not only were the Clásicos extremely toxic when Mourinho was coach of Real Madrid, the Spanish, there's actually a lot of complaint from Del Bosque, which was the Spanish coach back then, because Mourinho had turned things so toxic between both teams that when Real Madrid players and Barcelona players would go to Spanish duty, to their duty with the national team, the situation would be so tense in the locker room that it was actually affecting the Spanish team's performance. Again, Mourinho, please, as far away from Barcelona as possible. I don't want anything to do with that guy. And plus, this putting that toxicity aside and everything that happened between him and Barcelona, why would you want a coach that's on a decline? The guy has been on a decline since Real Madrid. He's been sacked from every job he's had. Like, no thanks. Stay away as far away as possible. The Matrix says, in the Real match, both sides make the same tackles in the box and Real get the penalty and we don't. Yes, my friend. Welcome to La Liga. Let's see. Motion says, Johan Cruyff lost UCL final 4-0. How are we robbing trophies? Well, they're talking about from 2000 to 2001 to 2017. So it'd be more like Pep Guardiola, Luis Enrique era. That's when supposedly Barcelona were bribing referees, and that's when Barcelona were robbing trophies. The thing is, and this is clear, is Real Madrid, Madridistas in Spain cannot tolerate the fact that for many years, Guardiola's Barcelona completely embarrassed Real Madrid. Guardiola's Barcelona didn't just beat Real Madrid. They demolished them. They humiliated them. They embarrassed them. And they cannot live with that. That still lives in their memory, lives rent-free in their heads. And the only way for them to justify it, instead of saying accepting it, that, hey, Guardiola's Barcelona was simply the best in the world, instead of accepting that, it's better if they just justify it by saying, oh, well, it was robbery. And I see a lot of people still repeating it, and I'm sorry, but if you truly think that the reason why Pep Guardiola's Barca won a sextuple, and the reason why Luis Enrique's Barca won a treble was because Barcelona were bribing referees. Then I only have one thing to say to you, and it's that you should watch a different sport because you obviously know nothing about football. Because you don't need to be a genius or some football savant to see how much more superior Pep Guardiola's Barca was and how they completely demolished everybody in their way. Not just Real Madrid, but anybody in La Liga, anybody in the Champions League. I mean, they completely destroyed teams because that's how much more superior they were. And if you think that they won trophies because they bribed their way, then honestly, you should watch a different sport. And there's plenty of sports out there. There's basketball, American football, hockey. Take your pick. Tennis, I don't know, bowling. Seems boring, but to each their own. But definitely football is not your sport if you truly think that. But anyways, ladies and gentlemen, that is all for tonight. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for your comments, your likes, your subscriptions. You guys are absolutely amazing. Best YouTube community out there. I will see you tomorrow. Have a good night or good morning wherever you are in the world. And as always, Visca Barça.